Your two development deals, was it just like they didn't get finished in time?
100% that, yeah. And really, there was a couple things, right? The first one, which, and this is because it's my first time doing it, is I did not appreciate how hard it is to get permits. So the permitting process on one of them, gosh, was 9 months. The other one, I'm still, and I pray it should be literally today. The guy wants to approve it, but because it took so long, it expired. So they're going to give me an extension to approve it to then close it. But yeah, I'm over 2 years. I'm like 2.5 years on that one.
That's
So
because it's Seattle, right? Seattle area?
not necessarily. One was in Seattle and one was in Tacoma, which is an
Okay.
hour south of Seattle. But it's just and this might be the whole thing of blue states versus red states, right?
Right, I was just thinking
So if you
California is the same problem, and I imagine Seattle's similar.
100%, which, it's why the housing's so expensive here. And these politicians are like, we need to get lower housing, right? Lower housing costs. So then they put in these new codes, which are great. It's called the middle housing. So this is allowing you to put multiple units in your backyard. But to get these permits and build in the backyard are costing a lot of money and time. So they tried to make it available for builders to build more units at a lower price. But because of the restriction, the friction, I should say, of getting the permits and the financing and everything, man, they're just taking what was supposed to be a lower middle income. It's raising the cost of it. So it's like, if they had made these easier to do, I mean, you could probably cut off easy 50,000 between holding costs and these extra fees that they're putting in.
Man, do you know yeah, you're wearing the shirt, but, David Green, have you heard him talk about all the stuff he went through with those Airbnbs and people, like, stealing his, title? I think it's in Florida, which you wouldn't expect,
Yeah.
but it's insane how much they can just drain you by not not answering the phone or, like, telling you they're busy or whatever it was. I think like, every day, he has a team of people just calling, "Can I get this approved? Can you get this pushed through?" And then they'll send someone out, and it's a whole new thing. It just sounded
Yes.
like literal hell what he went through. Like, the podcast I listened to was like, "I cannot believe that."
You know who ran into that too, which a very prominent guy is, gosh, what's his name? He's a financial guy, young guy. He does the iced coffee hour. What's his
Graham
name?
Stephan, that guy's a
Graham
billionaire,
Stephan
yeah.
tried to do a detached accessory dwelling unit, and he gives this huge story, and it cost him like I want to say like almost 200,000. That what you described happened. Hey, because of this, you have to do that. Well, then he fixes that. Then another guy because you did this, now you need to do that. And it was just like one after another, and it took him like a super long time. And for most people, you're not stroking this out of pocket cash, and maybe Graham could, but most people aren't. So every time there's a delay, that's more cost. Like for me, I was using hard money, 12%, right? And then every time it go, typically hard money is max a year because you use the money and then you sell or refi, you pay it back. So I've had to extend twice. Every time I extend costs me like, gosh, like 15,000, some crazy number, right? So like it has been super expensive on all these like, delays and all the permitting stuff.
And it's an ADU?
The one that is in Seattle, that was a ADU. That one had some couple issues. It was on an ECA, environmental condition area, so there was
Mm.
a little bit of a slope, and then there was and my learning there was if any part of your property has an ECA. So imagine like this giant square, right? And if just that little corner has any sort of environmental condition area, the whole lot now is considered. So then I had to get a geotech to come in, do soil samples, which is like 3,000 bucks
If
to
you're building a
confirm
whole
that,
prop
yeah, to confirm that the soil was firm enough to that you could build there, right? And I'm like, guys, there's houses, it goes like this and then drops. And there's like houses further down. I'm like, of course we can build here. Like you got houses further down the hill, but you had to go through the process, right? Then the other thing, which is big in Seattle, is if you have there's different types of trees, and I believe it's tier 1, you can't cut those down, but I had some tier 2 trees where if you cut them down, then you gotta replant them. So when took 2 down and I had to replant, I think it was 36, shrubs, and to do that, you have to do what's called a revegetation plan.
you're an
So
environmentalist now in addition to a real estate investor.
yeah. The thing that killed me though is like we knew the trees were there, right? Because like the only spot you could put the house on was right where is where the trees are at. So now as I buy new lots, obviously I don't want trees right there. But so then the architect says, hey, we're gonna remove these trees. We then send it in. So then the city comes back saying, well, here's this long policy, create a revegetation plan. That just means you're going to plant trees somewhere else. So we send that in. It takes 1 month for them to respond. So then they respond and say, hey, make this change. We get it in like, I don't know, 2 days later. Well, another month to respond. So the process to get the revegetation approved was 3 months. I mean, it's crazy how pathetic the system is, right? You would think it'd be like a half hour for somebody to analyze it, right?
So are you gonna come out profitable, like, at some point? Like, I'm assuming if you hold the properties long enough, or are you gonna try to sell them and do a flip or something?
So the Seattle one, I already sold both of them. Sold
Oh,
one
yeah.
in November, one in
Oh,
December.
right, you said you're waiting
Yeah.
for the thing, yeah.
Overall, I lost big time. So when I finish my taxes this year, I'll get
Oh, that'll be
fine. But it feels like about 200,000 that I lost on that.
yeah,
The one in Tacoma, the saving factor there is that I'll have a free and clear lot. So now I can build and sell. I will lose money, but then I have the free lot. So when I build on the lot, I should be at least break even on that one. But
dang.
as I go forward, now it's like, okay, short platting is super difficult. Some of the cities are now trying to do what's called unit lot subdivision. So effectively a short platting, but a easier process to lower the cost structure of it and speed it up, right? So if you're able to do that, a unit lot subdivision, say like, I don't know how long it would take, maybe it's 6 months versus like 2 years. I mean,
Mhm.
that is a game changer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's land flippers that I've interviewed or talked to, and I know they always target, like, just outside of the city, like, 45 minutes, because you can buy 100 acres and subdivide it into 10-acre lots, and it's basically nothing. Like, you just call, whatever they are, like, well, I forget the name of them, but they go out and they draw the lines and,
So there.
yeah, surveyor. And it's just literally they go out there, you pay maybe 5 or 10 grand and it's done that basically immediately. And now you have 10 lots that are worth more than one 100-acre lot and you can make a big profit, like double your profit. So
Yeah.
this shows like in the city, you're going to have to talk to every single person in every department and wait 2 years. Or if you're in the country, you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah. And then what you were talking about surveyors, the one thing that I didn't know, I was like, they're in so high demand right now because everyone's trying to do the same thing.
Mm,
They take their lot and they survey it. And there's two surveys. The first survey is what do they call it? A topology survey, I believe. So it's basically like where is everything on the lot? Where are the trees at? Where's the lot lines and all that, right?
oh, yeah.
So then that's step one. Then you're obviously you want to build something. So what we're doing is condoizing. So then you have to have a condo survey, which then just takes the lot, for simplistically, you just, say cut it in half, right? But they have to show the diagram on the lot where exactly the divider line is. And, depending on the lot, you may have a shared driveway, shared walkway. So then you'd have lot A, lot B, and then there could be a lot C, which is what's called a common area. So you have to do these two surveys. Now, there's not a whole lot of these surveyors here. So like if you wanted to survey, you're like 3 to 4 weeks out to get a survey. If you're looking at doing that, the faster you can get into the queue.
Yeah.
Say for example, if I was to buy a property today, so I get it under contract, I'm going to close in a month. Well, in a couple weeks, if I wanted to do everything as fast as possible,
Yeah,
you'd want to
immediately.
schedule the surveyor 3 to 4 weeks in advance of when you actually need it so that you
Mm,
can get them on site. And the same thing is true for if you have trees on there, you have to get an arborist because the arborist will say, what type of tree is it? What's the size of the tree? Is it healthy or not? If it's not healthy, they want you to take it down because it's going to fall down, with our storms. So those are the same boat. Those are 2 to 4 weeks out, depending on who you use.
dang. That's crazy, man. Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll get through it and figure out how to make a bunch of money like you have done to this point. So,
Well, here's the parlay that forward, right? So like I basically got a master's degree on that first one. So now it's like,
that's a
well,
good way to think it.
instead of throwing that away and not doing it again, now I'm going to double down, start buying more and more of these types of properties, take the learning, the expensive learnings I already got, and apply that to future builds.
Dang, okay. Because I mean, initially I felt like the reaction was, I'm never going to do this again. But you're doubling down. You're not going to let this thing beat you. Like you're going to
Oh
keep
yeah,
doing it and become the developer now. That's sick. Okay.
100%. Yeah, it's the the Burr model. You've I'm sure you heard of
Mhm.
buy, rent, rehab. There's a buy or rehab, right? I always get like a buy or rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, something like that.
Yeah.
So in today's world, it's very hard to do that, right? So like if you do these single family with daddies in the backyard, I call it a two-step burr, right? So you effectively, in today's world, because everyone wants to do these, the initial property that's there, best case scenario, you break even. But typically you're losing 5 to 10% on the front house. But then you're making large chunks of money on the back. And typically you lose a little bit on the front, you sell one of the dadus and you can keep the other dadu. So you make a little money and then you burr, meaning you refinance out of your hard money, keep it as a rental and let that one cash flow. So if you keep doing that model, you make a little money and you have a free and clear rental there, rinse, repeat that, and you just set yourself up and it's a brand new property, right? Versus most of mine are 50 to 100-year-old properties. The more of these new properties you can have, the better. Less stress.
Okay. And so you're saying it's like a completely like you develop the new single family and it's completely brand new and you rent that out, maybe break even, and then you can do 2 additional units in the back. Then you sell one of the units and then continue to rent the other.
Right. In a perfect world, you keep all of it, right? Like the magic number from when I'm doing the analysis, if we got 5% interest rates, I would have kept the properties. But for me at the time, like interest rates are around 7% for like the loans that I was doing. So I would be losing like $1,000 a month on these. I'm like, I don't want to I don't need a alligator, right? So I was like, well, let me just sell these, move forward with it, and then get a better deal on the next one.
That sounds like a good plan. Yeah, so I got like 5 things here. I just kind of want to run by you because you're at the point where you've made it and made it in the sense of like established some sort of financial freedom. You've done a lot of the legwork, and so I think you can provide some insight into some of these topics that would be beneficial. The first one would be personal finance because it's easy to talk about like the steps, the tactical knowledge of how to buy, like we just did about buying a rental, building the property. You could say what to do, but a lot of people aren't even in the place where they can even think about that because they have the rest of their life is in shambles. And it takes a little bit of groundwork to become who you are right now with the discipline and everything. So, as far as personal finance goes, how do you manage your money? I know you talked about when you were making a lot of money, you lived on way less than you spent. Did you
Right.
use a budget? And what were some of the tactics with personal finance that you were using or following?
Yeah. So for me, the way I got paid at Amazon actually helped because it's basically a forced savings plan. You get what are called restricted stock units.
Okay.
So if you're in a tech company, it could be restricted stock units, it could be stock options, but effectively you've got to work their X time in order for those to what are called vest. So you always got these paydays out in the future. And quite frankly, they're going up, from when I started in what was that 2016 to 2022. I mean, the thing was like this, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to cash them in because I was like, man, they're just going up in value. Effectively, that was my forced savings plan, right? Because I didn't want
Mm.
to use it. So then I was just living off of the paycheck. And the rough numbers was about 2/3 was like an actual paycheck, and then a third was the deferred comp, the restricted stock units. But as it started increasing over time, it ended up being about 50% because it was growing so much. But then specifically on, okay, like tactically, what am I doing? So the other thing I was doing at the same time, because like when I was at that point, I wasn't necessarily looking at all my like legitimately on a budget. What I was doing is I was taking my biggest numbers and forcing them to be smaller. So typically, housing is your number one, and then like your car would be like number two, right? So, for me, I was downsizing. When I had moved up to Seattle, I ended up renting in downtown Seattle, and I think I was paying like call it 2,500, something like that. Then I moved to West Seattle, which then I was paying like 1,800.
Hmm.
Then I ended up buying a house, which was a house hack, and then because I rented the bottom unit, lived in the top unit, and I was 700, right? So I was
Yeah.
at 2,500 to like 18 to then 7. So I'm lowering my biggest expense. Then the other one was I never bought a new car. I had a 2006 Dodge Charger and it had been paid off. So like I had 700 for rent, $0 for a car. I mean, outside of gas and insurance, right? So I took my 2 biggest expenses and cut those down, right? And so then really it's just a matter of, not buying toys. I really only spent my money on, like, food and entertainment, and the rest of it, I was just targeted on buying properties, right? And so, typically what I was doing, 'cause at that time, I was buying duplexes, like, 60 to 80,000, right? And so if you're at 20% down, 25% down, it was around 15 to 20,000 kind of ballpark kind of thing. As soon as I would save up 20,000, I would go start hunting for properties, right? And then, I'd go buy the property. So then I'd be back down to like 5,000, right? Or whatever, right? And then as soon as I build it up, then I go buy another one, right? I didn't actively go on a budget. I just took my biggest expenses, forced myself lower by living below my means and not buying a fancy car, which then all the money I was able to build up, then as soon as I hit like 25-ish thousand, I was buying something for roughly 20K for the down payment.
That's very simple, but that's probably why it works. I mean, and people hearing that, like 20,000, that's, yeah, it kind of sounds like a lot, but also if you're saving enough, you can by all means do that like once a year, no problem, right? If you're earning enough money, so that can show like 10 years from now, you could have 10 rental properties, and that could be that guarantees you're going to be retire a millionaire at that point, as long as you don't lose them.
Yeah. It's like,
So that's interesting. You
well,
didn't use any budgeting spreadsheets or apps?
no, because it's kind of I backed into it. Now, ironically, I am on a budget now today, and because I work with other people on showing like, hey, to go from W-2 to freedom, you do have to like before you ever buy any investment property, you have to become self sufficient, right? And so I always say you have to operate like a business.
Mm,
So, and I come because when I was at Amazon, I was in finance, right? And so you'd have your income statement, your balance sheet and your cash flow statement. So, but the main two are your income statement and your balance sheet. So, effectively on your income statement, that is a budget. You have money coming in and you have expenses going out.
yeah,
And you lower the expenses, increase the income, right? So, when I'm working with students, that's what I help them on is doing this income statement approach. The balance sheet, right? That's effectively your net worth, right? So your assets, your liabilities, the difference, that's your net worth. So we set up a budget, your income statement, we set up your net worth tracker, i.e., the balance sheet, and we're tracking those over time. And what we're specifically doing now is because I'm getting married in at the end of the year. Our goal is to remove all credit card debt, anything not related to real estate. We want to get all that paid off and the wedding, which the wedding is going to be like 30,000. So we're like paying that as we go. So what we've been doing is we meet weekly, literally go through all the accounts, see where the money is, and are trying to like we're seeing the stuff that comes up that we don't need to be spending on, right? And there's amazing how much money is set up to auto pull out of your account, you know? So, and there's apps out there. I can't remember. There's an app that goes through and cuts all your subscriptions. But we are just going through our accounts and we're like, holy crap. We had, if you look behind me there, there's the Peloton. So Peloton was like $45. So we cut the Peloton account. You can still use the Peloton. It's a black screen, which I use anyway. It just tracks what you're doing. So we got rid of that. And then we had like a Fabletics thing that was like $80.
they
Uh,
sneak up. Yeah.
Massage Envy. You're just like, because we operated separately. Like I had my own checking and I was buying all the real estate. I own zero stock. She has a pension. She's only stocks. She has her own checking accounts. And so, now we're like each looking at what we have and we're like, okay, what can we do to lower these so we can pay off all the credit card debt? And our goal is to be the credit card debt free, but we want to then like focus more on traveling and where we are traveling on a budget, meaning we're not racking up credit card debt to travel. We want to be proactive and save the money and then use that to travel.
Yeah. I think that's where Dave Ramsey gets stuff right, because he gets a lot of flack for telling basically people to just not invest in real estate at all, like unless you're going to buy a property cash, which I don't think completely makes sense if you have this stuff down. But this stuff is what I think he gets right as far as like no bad debt, spend less than you make, you have a budget. I think he's got an app, the Every Dollar app. I use a spreadsheet that I made myself, and that's the only thing that's worked for me. I've tried apps and the big problem with the apps, in my opinion, is they don't show it in real time. So you'll spend something and you'll try to go see if it reflects in your app, and it takes a couple days for the pending to go through. So when I have my spreadsheet, I have all the categories that I spend money on, and then anytime I put a number, so if I spend money, I'll just put the number in the spreadsheet, and then
Yeah.
I have it where it'll just automatically bring down the allocated amount for that budget category. So for like groceries, we spend a lot on groceries. It's like, I don't know if this is a lot. For most people, it's like 1,800 bucks a month on groceries because we just buy everything organic and we
Uh-huh.
cook at home. We don't go out to eat or anything. This is all like literal groceries. So anytime we'll go to the grocery store, like whatever, 400 bucks Costco, put that in the column, and then it'll take it from 1,800 to 1,400. So you can see like in real time how much you have left. And I found that to be like, I know exactly because of that. So it helps
That's
a
a
lot.
great before I ever invested in properties, my story, I started at Amazon in 2013, and I actually absolutely hated it. But I was like, "Man, I still owed, like, my college, for my MBA." Gosh, it was like 120,000 or something like that. So I was like, well, if I'm going to leave a job and I have all this college debt, you know, I got to first get out of debt, right? So I literally was on the Dave Ramsey model. I read the Total Money Makeover and did the baby steps, right? You start with $1,000 and then you debt snowball. You kind of keep progressing from there. And so I did that. The first, gosh, it took me about a year and a half to pay off my MBA program. And, it's in hindsight, if I would have just kept that stock and paid the debt over time, because like I would get my RSUs, restricted stock units, they'd vest, I'd take that, sell it, pay off the loan. And so, those stocks probably are up 10x since then. Gave me the option to where I was debt free. I had zero debt. I was making, I don't know, at that time, maybe 180,000. So like I had all this money coming in. So 180,000 when we were talking about my cost of living. That time I was still downtown. I was still 2,500. But when you're making that much money and you have relatively low cost, I was able to save a lot of money to then buy my first house hack there in Seattle.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. Where people go wrong is they can do everything right, and then they just stop there where they don't start becoming an owner. And I think that's so critical. I mean, even I struggle with because I still got a bunch of student loans to pay off, and
Hmm.
I make about the same, but my cost is a lot higher. I have a little baby, and you
Hmm.
know, it's just a little. I can't really house hack in a duplex. That's excuses, but I guess we're choosing. I'm choosing to have a higher cost of living, but like I also wanna and I don't necessarily wanna wait however long it's gonna take to get all the loans paid off because it's just like, if you can do both, I think it still makes sense, but yeah, just having, like, that weight of having debt is just awful. That's, like, the first thing you should try to focus on, but you can't stop there.
Stressful.
You gotta own, like, rental properties or it's honestly hard to pick which way to go with it, you know? Like, I talked to all these people, like, I just talked to Michelle Bison, she does RV parks,
Yeah.
and makes it sound like so awesome. And then I talk to you and you're doing this like development thing, or then you talk to somebody else who's like a money lender. There's so many ways to go. Like, do you have guidance on like how to pick what you should invest in?
Yeah, when I first started, I honestly didn't know what I didn't know, and I think my biggest strength at the time is that I had a burning desire to change my life, right? So I just jumped in, and I was in finance at Amazon, so I could run the analysis, and I literally was just like, I need to live somewhere, but then not have to pay the full amount. I never even heard of house hacking at the time, right? And I'm wearing this Bigger Pockets. So I was listening to Bigger Pockets. They hadn't even coined house hack at the time. I just called it, well, I need an and one, from a basketball terms, right? And so I was like, well, let me go find, gosh, if I got like a duplex, I could live in one and rent the other one out, and that would be able to help me, right? And so that's just kind of how I started. And then I was like, oh, this works. Well, and then I was like, what if I get more properties that I can keep as rentals? And so then I just started looking at around the area, and I was like, man, nothing makes sense here. So then I looked in Eastern Washington. I found something on LoopNet, and then I bought one there. And then I was like, well, nothing pencils here. So then I heard about Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's like, oh, let me look at that, right? And I just kind of one thing to another to the another. You know, are there things I'd change looking back? Yes, I probably would. In hindsight, like, gosh, if I would have done 5 house hacks like the one I have, I probably would have been just as good as what I've got right now. Just because the appreciation has been bananas in Seattle. But the consistent massive action over time. That is the key thing. And you can make money in anything you can do, but I think you're going to naturally progress into something that you can kind of find and works for your model. For me, like I was working a lot at Amazon. It was very easy to buy something on market in Milwaukee. It just was easy for me. So that's kind of what I did a ton of them. But in hindsight, I would have gone bigger, faster in out of state and would have done more house hacks in state.
Okay. Yeah, you wouldn't have gone out of state. Do you still own some of those out of state ones?
Mhm.
Are they problem properties or are there any of them that you're like, I really like this one?
I've been selling off majority of the problem properties. So
Okay.
in the last 2 years, because I was at 45 properties at the peak, and I think I'm at 31 right now. So I'm down net 14 properties down. So some of those were in partnerships because I wanted to simplify life. So close those down, took the money out. But other ones I was purposely selling because they are high turnover or just bad area kind of stuff, right? Knowing what I know now, it's like, hey, I thought to myself, do I want to own this in 10 years? The answer is no. They're on the chopping block. I can sell. And then when I go to sell, obviously, what am I going to do with the money? So on a 1031. So for me to sell, I'm selling 2 to 4 at a time out of state to then get enough money to buy something back here in greater Seattle area.
Yeah, and then parlay it into something that you're gonna keep for a long term and cash flow like crazy. Okay. So you said you're not invested in the stock market at all?
Zero stock market, zero crypto. I'm 100%, well, I should say I'm like, 95 plus percent real estate, and then the other is life insurance and metals.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so here's a hypothetical for you. If you had 10,000, 100,000, and $1,000,000 today in each separate scenario, how would you invest each one?
As I'm thinking about it, it's like, the more money you have, there's more options and it's easier to get into it, right?
Yeah.
So like if I had 10,000, that forces you to be very cognizant of where literally every penny goes, right? So some of the better deals I got were direct to sellers. So if I had only $10,000, I'd spend that money on, you could do parallel path. You can get your real estate license fairly inexpensive, less than $1,000
Okay.
for the education. So I'd probably get that. At the same time, I would target a specific area and try to find deals that I could either partner with somebody or sell them to somebody to generate more money. Because 10,000 is not going to get you a property. Uh, you know, pretty much anywhere in the US, right? So
Right.
so I would focus on finding a deal, selling that to somebody else to make a chunk of money and kind of build that chunk up to call it 100,000. Now 100,000, now you can start looking at doing a house hack, and you don't need to use all that 100,000 because you can get in for like 3.5%, right? As low as. But then you can start using that money to strategically start buying.
Yeah. Okay. And then $1,000,000?
On the $1,000,000 in my mind, I'm like, man, if I had 1,000,000 cash, like, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can, um, the more that I've done, I've been borrowing private money from people, right? And so I've been paying them out lately, and I'm like seeing that, with extension fees and all that, the rates that I've been paying out are between 12 and 15%. I'm like, holy crap! What if I was a private money lender, right? So I might do some private money lending, and for me, like I'm looking for, yes, return on the investment, but I'm looking more now from a return on time. So maybe I would get into, if I found the right syndicator and the right project, maybe syndicate if I had 1,000,000 cash. In a perfect world, when syndicators, talk about 2018 to probably 2022, it was like the heyday of syndicators. They were able to buy these properties, add the value, refinance out, still cash flow, the investor got all their money back, right? And so that's like infinite return. So like if I saw something that could hit those metrics, that'd be something that I would be interested in because there's scale at these larger syndications. So
Yeah.
and then maybe do some of that, and then I'd say at least 500. If I had 500,000, I could fund my own entire single family two daddy play out of pocket. They give you enough to buy the 20% for the down, for the buy, the money to get the hard money or private money on the builds in the back, and then rinse repeat. So I'd probably diversify. So half would be for the single family daddy plays, some of it for some syndications, and then maybe that's 250 for that. Maybe like 250 would be for private money lending.
Awesome. I think that's a very real estate investor answer that you gave, but that's what you do. So that makes sense.
Right.
Cool. Do you have like a principle against stocks or crypto or anything, or is it just like real estate, so that's what you want to invest in?
For me, I don't have anything against it. I just feel like there's so many more advantages to real estate. So, and when I get married, effectively, I'll be a stock owner, right? She has stocks, right? Stocks are, obviously very easy to buy, get in, very liquid, right? The thing is, I have like zero competitive advantage, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
People who think they do, they don't know what they're talking about. Now, if you're like the hedge fund people and they do all day, every day, and they're like on a specific niche, of course they have an advantage, right? Because they're putting that much time and attention into it. But I have zero. If I was to do it, I'd probably just do some sort of index fund, right? And just do buy it over time. But for me, being a real estate professional now, there's so many tax advantages of the real estate that it just makes more sense for me. Like, for example, like I'm very late on 2024 taxes, but effectively, like I made more money on my agent business than I did ever at Amazon through because I had lost money on some of those projects. Effectively, I paid zero in taxes for 2024. You can't do that. I mean, you could with stocks, you could lose money in stocks, right? To help offset stuff. But, the big thing about real estate with depreciation, it's whether you have depreciation like paper losses or actual losses like I had on some of those projects, you
Mhm.
can offset your income to, effectively pay zero tax. So there's so you got obviously the cash flow on the property, you got the depreciation, you got the debt pay down, you got the tax advantage, and then the debt that you're paying off in the future is, every dollar you spend on that is less than really a dollar because of the time value of money over time as the debt decreases that way. So there's
Well,
just too many good things about it in my mind. Now, in the long run, like it probably is not a good idea to be that heavy in one asset class. Effectively, at the end of the year, we'll be, shifted to where the
more
the whole
exposure.
ratio is going to change. Be it probably like 2/3 real estate, a third stock is basically what will be kind of round up.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's one of the huge pluses of all the many benefits of getting married. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons. Financially is one of them. I think there's some statistics about finance. When you get married, your net worth goes up a whole bunch. With the tax side of the real estate thing, and I dug into this a while ago, and I forget the minutia of it, but there's a difference between like a professional real estate investor versus somebody who has a W-2 and investing in real estate. I think it's like 1,000 hours a year you have to justify of active real estate activities to be able to offset the entire income. Otherwise, it's like it's taken in account a different amount. You know what I mean? Like, because that's how a lot of those guys will get, or you or billionaires, they'll get down to zeros because they're a real estate professional. They show how much time they did, and then they can like literally offset using advanced depreciation and some of these other methods to bring it down to zero. Where that's different as the W-2, right? Do you know the specifics of that?
Yeah, real estate professional, I want to say it's 700 hours, and it's supposed to be your primary source of income.
Yep.
Now that I have a real estate agent business and a real estate active investing, and then my long term hold. I mean, I don't track the hours. It's just that all day, every day, that's all I do is real estate. So in terms of hours, I hit it, and then that's my primary source of income. So I'm considered a real estate professional status,
Mm,
and if you're married, only one of you needs to be real estate professionals.
right.
You know, we were just literally talking this past weekend. I was like, because my fiance was like going to process, hers is very easy. Like you get the W-2
Mhm.
and you do 1040 easy, I believe, right? So I was like, whoa, 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 don't do anything because like we're in 2026, so we're getting on married on 12/31, right? New Year's Eve. I was like, well, I'm gonna have paper losses, right? And so if because in Washington we're a community property state, so we're like, well, maybe there's a way for us to you know, get 2025 us to do taxes together. So I'm talking to my tax accountant or tax advisor later this month to see if we can do taxes together in 25. For sure 26, no problem. But she had like, gosh, I want to say it was almost 40,000 in taxes, right? So if I have losses that when we are now married can offset her income, that 40,000 would then come back to us, right? So it's like a massive savings.
Yeah, I had my tax stuff set up wrong. I didn't even put I had a wife and a kid for last year, and like I got this huge refund because they were taking too much out of my paycheck. I was like, dang, that's kind of go
Yeah.
government. But
And you're a pilot, right? Or
yeah,
what do you
yeah,
so when I was in the W-2 world, that was another, like, forced savings plan. A lot of people say don't do that, but I did, 0 exemptions, right? So, the less exemptions you do, the more taxes they pull out. So then every year when I'd file taxes, then I get that a chunk of money, right? Which,
exactly.
it being a decent amount, you could end up going to buy something, after you file your taxes, right?
Yeah, totally. Last thing here, maybe in like a couple minutes explanation here. Do you have like a morning routine for success? Something that's like you root your daily activities in, you do this first, and that kind of sets you up for the day.
Yeah, it's definitely something I still struggle with today. My goal is to get on a daily routines. But when I was really focused on, I'd say 2016 to 2022, heads down, ground and pound years. I read the book Miracle Morning, and that was a game changer, right? So by shifting everything I was doing. So like waking up, working out. Now I didn't do the full, if you're familiar with it, it's like Savers, Savers. And I wasn't doing all that, but my goal was to wake up early, work out, and then I would focus on real estate in the morning. Cause like over here, you could get up between 5 and 6, work out. And I would actually work out by my work. Then I would go shower at work, use their utilities, be in, before 7 o'clock, I'd be at the desk. And then most of my properties were in the Midwest at the time. So I could like put in offers, analyze properties, do all that before 8 o'clock in the morning. Cause what ends up happening is, especially if you're a high income earner, is typically high stress, right? And so you only have a max amount of processing capacity for the day. So like you probably peak and then it's like this, right? So if you do your personal stuff in the morning, you're getting your max horsepower on your stuff. What was happening is I was trying to work out after work, or try to figure out how to get out of work after work. But my brain is checked out. The odds of me actually doing it are super low. So the biggest thing for me was shifting everything to the morning to where I spent my time on me, which was the most productive. And then I was going into work. Now, what do I do today? My goal now is the same thing. I just try to get up early. In a perfect world, I'm getting up at 5, right? So today I got up late, 6:30, then work out, and then like I was on a real estate agent call. Then I did a YouTube live right before this, and then doing this one, and then I'm going to get into the business side. So I try to, if I can get up early, I try to get up, work out, read, stretch, get into the business at that point in time. If I do that, I'm going to be able to make money, but I think the biggest thing now is my health factor, right? So I'm trying to decrease weight and specifically my body fat percentage, which I'm like really struggling with. I thought it'd be easier, but because I was like ChatGPT, what's your average body fat for somebody my age and height? And it says 16%. I'm like, okay, that's easy. I've been on 23% for the last month. And I'm like, so I've been doing the Peloton on the back, or like now I'm doing like 30-minute dumbbell workouts. So I just off of YouTube, but I'm just like hovering right at 23. So I'm like, I've got to figure out how to, because I'm able to lose the weight, but I'm like, I got to really target that body fat percentage.
1 month isn't that long. I mean, I would widen your time horizon because honestly, it does take like a lot of the fat you hold is visceral fat, so you could be burning fat and you don't even see it because it's like surrounding your organs and stuff. And then after about a month, then you can I think really start to see like love handles go away and that sort of thing. And if you especially if you track your weight on a day to day, it's going to go up and down like 5 pounds. But then over a month, you'll see like it trending in a certain way. But yeah, I think
Okay.
I think you're nailing it. So that's a solid advice there. But yeah, we'll wrap this up here, man. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll do it same time next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brennan.
All righty, get wealthy, everybody.